Welcome back to Angry Guy Hates Everything. And what we're going to talk about today is, first thing I just want to say, when I changed this over from Closed-Minded was set up strictly to be a political channel. And when I changed it over, because I kind of didn't want it to be political all the time, and that's all Closed-Minded was. And I promise that coming down the road, this is not only going to be a political channel, because I got all kinds of things that I want to talk about that I think things that are just piss people off every day in their lives, especially me, hence the Angry Guy Hates Everything. But in this political cycle, it is so hard not to talk about politics right now, because this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in the political world. I mean, it is just insane what's going on out there. We still have a former president who's being brought up on charges that everybody knows are phony charges that were implemented by Joe Biden. And if you don't know that, well, then you need to have your head examined, because it's pretty obvious what's going on here. And then we're also in a time where people, half of America, is literally voting for the stupidest person to ever run for president. You have to remember, Kamala Harris was sent out of the primary by Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard absolutely embarrassed her on the debate stage. And Kamala Harris was so bad, she could not even get 1% vote. Not one. She sucked so much that nobody wanted to vote for her. And then you also have to remember, it was just last month. We're coming up on 2 months ago, but it was still, because of the time we're in, it was just a little, I guess it was about 6 or 7 weeks ago. I said this in the last video, I believe, that CNN said Kamala Harris was dragging down the Democrat Party and was going to cause Joe Biden to lose the election. Also, around that same time frame, MSNBC said Kamala Harris was the worst vice president in the history of America and makes very poor decisions. And yet, amazingly, half of the country is going to vote for this person that has no policy. She talks about nothing. Her website still has no policy, but it's got a lot of places you can donate money to. And they're all about joy, 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 joy. But last time I checked, Joy did not give you affordable housing. Joy did not give you the ability to put food on the table for your family. Joy did not bring gas down, because like I said, my wife and I are spending $250, $300 more a month for fuel for our cars per month. And Joy's not bringing that down. So these people are so brainwashed. They didn't drink the Kool-Aid. They fell into the Kool-Aid vat. It is so bad. But lo and behold, like I said, it's hard not to talk about politics. And it's not so much Republican or Democrat. It's just the craziness that is going on right now. And I watched a video. I very seldom do I watch Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is a liberal shill. He's not quite as bad as Don Lemon, but he's pretty damn close. But he hasn't gone completely off of the range, per se, as a Stephen King, a Mark Hamill, or whatever the guy's name is, Meathead, that was in All of the Family. I guess back in the 70s, he was Rob Reiner. Those guys have completely gone off the farm. They're so lost, they cannot be found. So Jon Stewart hasn't quite gotten off the farm, but he's still a liberal shill. But the funny thing about it is he did a special on the DNC on The Daily Show where he just literally calls out the hypocrisy of the Democrats. And yet he's still a shill and going to vote for Kamala, who has no policy whatsoever. Her policy is joy, joy, joy. Well, you know what? Joy's not going to solve any problems. And I can tell you right now, there is not one single leader of another country that will fear Kamala Harris. But let's get into the Jon Stewart, where he completely calls them out on their hypocrisy, and he's still going to support them 100%. So I apologize. This may be kind of a long video because we got a lot to unpack. So let's go ahead and get started.
And her opportunity.
Now, do you hear that? These people are voting for Kamala Harris and have no idea what her policy is or where she stands. You have to remember, she said that on day one, she's going to start fixing the problems. Well, day one was 4 years ago. You're the one that created the problems. You can try and separate yourself from the disaster of the Joe Biden administration as much as you want, but you are equally equally as guilty for everything that's going wrong in America right now.
She's not here either. No Beyonce, no comment. Okay. Hey! Tickets are free, mother. It was Kamala's night, and it was Kamala Harris's opportunity to be introduced as a presidential candidate to America.
Growing up, we moved a lot. I will always remember that big Mayflower truck packed with all our belongings, ready to go to Illinois, to Wisconsin.
Just name swing states. Just say that you moved to swing states, that you moved to Michigan, to Georgia, you moved to Arizona. Just make it up.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. He literally calls them out on their hypocrisy, and yet he's still going to vote for him. And I could not, being that I'm a conservative, I could not sit here and count and just hammer our Republican candidate like that and then say, well, I'm going to vote for him anyway. They're idiots. I disagree. They're complete hypocrites, but I'm going to vote for him anyway. This is absolutely amazing to me.
But this is great. We finally get to meet Communist Kamala, the radical that we have heard so much about.
I believe everyone has a right to safety.
Except for when you're defunding the police, which you backed 100%.
Dignity and to justice.
Except for when you're letting criminals out of jail, which you backed 100%.
Harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us.
Okay, Stalin.
Now, this is what I'm talking about. See, now he's going to make fun of the lie because it seems to me that they have quickly forgotten how much Kamala Harris, the damage her and the Joe Biden administration has done by defunding the police. They were literally on the side of the criminals during their entire 4 years in office. And now they're going to make fun of it because she is a communist. She said it plain and simple. She's going to lock down the prices on corporations. Well, that's a communist move because they tried that in Russia and it failed miserably. And then the people in Russia ended up in soup lines. You can go read about it and see exactly what they did wrong. And that's exactly the path that Comrade Kamala is wanting to head down.
This is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people.
Das Vidanya, comrade.
And he's going to make fun of it, knowing, see, right now is where Jon Stewart is being the hypocrite. Because he knows exactly what she did. He knows what her history is. She's on record. She's on CNN. She's on MSNBC. She's on every talk show in the world talking about the very policies she's trying to run away from now because they were failed policies.
An important part of tonight was familiarizing people with the Democratic nominee's biography, a hallowed walk through the trials and tribulations that formed the ethos and spirit of the Democratic nominee. Because up until tonight, they didn't have a lot. Thin on the anecdotes, quite frankly. I mean, I know they didn't have much time, but this is what they were running out there.
Vice President Harris came and visited my restaurant.
You know, I know you only had 4 weeks to put this movie together, but come on. You got to do better than... I was working and she walked in. I drove her in an Uber. Come on, the big movers and shakers of the Democratic Party must know her well.
She worked at McDonald's. And she greeted every person with that 1,000-watt smile and said, "How can I help you?"
I think you have to say that when you work at McDonald's, or really any point of service occupation. How can I help you is kind of the thing. I don't know that the transaction can really take place if you do not acknowledge that delicate dance of whether or not they will supersize. Are there less professional, more personal stories?
My phone rings. It's Kamala Harris.
She called me.
My phone rang again, and it was Vice President Kamala Harris.
If you're lucky enough to be her friend, she calls you on her birthday.
Wait,
She calls you on her birthday. I need something.
she calls you on her birthday? That is very on her birthday, she calls you. Hey, girl. It's Kamala. Anything you have to say to me that you should have said hours ago?
So this is just the beginning where he starts making fun of the very people that he's going to vote for in November to be president. So let's move on and let's get to the really good part where he completely shows the hypocrisy of the Democrats. Check this out.
Only things we knew about her before she took office.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
She called people. But credit where credit is due. The Democrats, on short notice, exploited their newfound momentum and enthusiasm with a display of the breadth and width of this diverse, often contradictory party of Roosevelt. At their convention, they had union leaders and CEOs. They had Democratic Party icons and lifelong Republicans. They had a guy yelling, "Screw the billionaires," followed immediately by a very happy billionaire.
And this is exactly what I'm talking about, because you always see them. They're always talking about how Donald Crump. Who's Harry Crump? Who's Donald Crump? How Donald Trump is always for the billionaires. He's always for the elites. He's always helping the big guy, but never helping the little guy. When the fact is the exact opposite. Donald Trump truly cares about the middle class, and his 4 years proved it. And I was just in an argument with a liberal about this very thing that said, well, Donald Trump's policies only help Donald Trump and the super rich. And my reply was, really? So affordable housing, that benefited Donald Trump? Affordable fuel and energy benefited Donald Trump? A closed border benefited Donald Trump? Higher wages with low prices benefited Donald Trump? Because to me, it sounds like those are things that benefit the middle class. Because the super wealthy, hell, they can afford it anyway. It doesn't matter what they cost. But the exact opposite is true. If you look at the richest companies in America right now, they're controlled by liberals. Every one of them's controlled by liberals. BlackRock, liberal. Facebook, liberal. Amazon, liberal. Apple, liberal. And these are the people who are donating to Kamala Harris. So I love it when they spread their lies about how he's just rubbing elbows with the billionaires. And when they were actually saying that, Trump was at a rally and Joe Biden was at a fundraiser in Hollywood with all the liberal elite Hollywood weirdos. Amazing. Let's move on.
It's all okay if it's our billionaire. I don't like billionaires, but he's all right. They had guys making fun of people for going to Yale and a bunch of people who went to Yale. They had Barack Obama.
Do you hear that applause for Barack Obama? Now, my first time voting was Ronald Reagan's second term. I'm an old dude. Barack Obama has been one of the biggest disasters in my lifetime. Now, I vaguely remember the Jimmy Carter years. I was a young tyke back then, but I vaguely do remember how bad it was during Jimmy Carter. Well, I hate to break it to everybody, but the Obama years were equally as bad. Did everybody forget 2010 and how shitty everything was in 2010? I remember driving around the city and things that were being built and constructed stopped dead in their tracks for years. Stores halfway built. The four walls are up, the roofs are off, and they sat that way for years. Lots that had been dug out, and they were just stopped, and the equipment was even left on the damn lots, and it just sat there for years. And yet, amazingly, these people, when they hear the name Barack Obama, they go crazy. And it amazes me that these people would actually vote for somebody who guarantees them a worse life. And that's what they're doing in voting for Kamala Harris. They're literally voting for a worse life.
And Jewish Barack Obama. That's always good for politics. You know what really works? A Jewish guy that sounds like a black guy. The Democrats had people who prosecuted sexual predators and... There goes that booking. They had black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, gay Americans, Jewish Americans, Palestinian Americans. To be fair, it was only 4 nights, 8 hours a night. But really, it's best not to think about the consequences of our actions over there, especially given the theme of the week.
I can feel the excitement in this arena. It's filled with energy and with joy.
The air of joy.
Joy. Joy. Joy.
We will be joyful warriors. The president of joy.
Let us choose joy.
Absolutely amazing. Joy, joy, joy. Is joy going to put food on your table? Is joy going to make it to where you can actually afford to buy a house, a home, a place for your kids to grow up? Is joy going to make your gas bill go down? Is joy going to make your electric bill go down? These are the facts. Right now, energy is the highest it's ever been. We're still paying $1 to $2 more per gallon of gas than we did under Donald Trump. The tax cuts are getting ready to expire, which means your taxes are going to go up. The border is wide open. Your Social Security is being dismantled by the Democrats because by the time we all get to retire, it's going to be filled with illegals. There'll be no Social Security left. You're literally voting to ruin your own retirement. This is absolutely astounding to me how so many people cannot open their eyes. Jon Stewart, case in point. I'm not going to play the rest of this, but at the end of the video, he's just talking about how he's pretty much all in for Team Kamala, Team Cam, Team Joy. going to vote for Cam. I'm going to vote to make my life worse. I want to pay exorbitant prices. I want my country and my communities to be a lot less safe. And the thing that amazes me the most about that is when you start talking with the liberals, well, the crime from illegals is 0.00001 pi 0.056432 pi percent of the crime in the United States. Guess what? It should be zero. There should be no crime from illegals because they should not be here, because that is what makes a country sovereign, are its borders. When you remove its borders, it's no longer sovereign. Do you think for a second that I could just walk into Mexico? They would absolutely kick my ass straight back to America. You can't even walk into Canada, one of the most liberal countries in the world. You can't walk into Canada, but you can walk into the United States because the Democrats plan on taking all these illegals, somehow getting them on the U.S. citizens roster and getting them to vote, because we will promise them freebies for the rest of their lives. And that way, the Democrats constantly remain in power. That is not a democracy. That is communism 101. So when Jon Stewart was making fun of the Republicans calling her a communist, he's actually solidifying what we've all been saying. Because he's like, oh, we didn't see communist Kamala. Really? Vote for Kamala. Communism, you won't have to look for it. It's going to be coming for you. But the thing, before we wrap this up, that absolutely gets me the most is Jon Stewart, who just sat right here and pointed out the absolute hypocrisy of the Democrats. That's why I call them hypocrites. He pointed out the absolute hypocrisy of the Democrats. And then at the end of the show, he's all in for Kamala Harris. Support Kamala Harris. Joy. Don't know what her politics are. Well, we know what her politics are, but we don't know what her platform is. Not even on her website. She doesn't talk about it. She's going to fix things on day one, which happened to be 4 years ago. And this is what I'm talking about. Jon Stewart is a hypocrite, because only a hypocrite can point out the hypocrisy of the party they're voting for, then continue to support that party.